and welcome to Petrol Ped. The sun is shining, it's not raining, and I had to have the roof down because this is the last drive I will ever take in my Porsche Boxster. Yeah, I'm selling it. Will I regret the decision I'm about to make? Or could it be the best decision I've ever made and lead to something really, really exciting? Let's find out, shall we? I just love the sound of that Miltech on the back of this car. So yes, my final drive. It's been nearly 3 years of ownership with this car, and I can't believe how the time has flown by. It seems like only yesterday I collected it from Harbour Cars, the culmination of a lot of hard work and the realisation of a dream to finally own a car with that badge on. It was a big thing for me. I've always wanted a Porsche, I've always lusted after them. And for me at the time, the Boxster was the perfect car. I love the mid-engine format, I love taking the roof down and feeling the wind in your hair, the connection you get with nature. That's why I love soft top motoring, and of all the kind of two-seat convertible sports cars, I think the Boxster is right up there with the best. I've taken this car on some amazing adventures. I'd only had it a matter of weeks, and I took it down into Spain and the south of France with GT Tours. In fact, I've done 2 GT tours with it. I did a Podium Tours tour over towards Spa and Germany. It's just been a magnificent car. But my finance comes to an end in just a couple of months' time, because yes, I couldn't afford to buy one outright. I financed the car. And thanks to Lillian Stanley Finance and the advice I got, I'm actually in a pretty good position, I think. And I'm now ready to take the step up to the next car. And I'm really wanting to take the step up to a 911, because a 911 for me, in terms of the Porsche lineup, is as good as it gets, really. And the bonus of a 911 is that that comes with 2 little seats behind for the puppies, because the big challenge you've got with this car is that if Tracy and I want to go away for the weekend and we want to take the dogs with us, there's nowhere really for them to go. On shorter journeys they can go in the footwell of the passenger side, but they're not really meant to do that. So a 911 would just open up the usability of the car. Listen to this. It just sounds great. And I'm actively looking for a 911, and I've been so for the last maybe 2 months. But what I've decided to do, because the finance comes up in a few months' time, and at the end of that I'd either have to clear the finance or refinance, I've decided to sell the car. And I'm going to my good friends at Anthony James Cars, because they offer a brilliant sale or return service. And we're going to try and get the car sold and get the best price possible, so that when the time comes and I actually find my perfect 911, I'm ready to go and I'm ready to make a move. But yeah, it's such a nice factor that the sun's out today and I'm able to get the roof down. So next stop is Anthony James Cars, and I'll talk to you more about our plans, more about their sale or return service, and maybe a little bit more about my aspirations for a 911. So yeah, welcome back to Anthony James Cars. It seems really weird because I've driven so many amazing cars from here over the last few years. To be here with my car is a bit weird, but let me explain. So I'm actually working with Daniel from Anthony James Cars, trying to source my next car, my first 911. And I'll talk a little bit later on in this video about my thought process and the car that I'm looking for. But clearly I need to move the Boxster on. And I've got, therefore, a number of options. I could part exchange this car whenever I find my new car, but I want to try and maximize the amount of money I can get back from this car. It has outstanding finance. I have a final settlement figure, and I want to try and release as much equity out of this car as possible. And I am in a good position. I do actually have money still left in this car. So part exchanging it is certainly the most convenient option, but whether that's the best financial option for me is another story. I could sell it privately, and arguably that would be the way I get the most amount of money out of this car. My challenge with that is I'm not so sure how many private sellers would want to buy a car like this privately. I'd have to clear the finance. Then you've got people coming to the house, and you've got to worry about test driving the car. And then also the fact that I'm not around a lot, I'm doing lots of travel with work, it just becomes really, really complicated. So the other option is what the guys here at Anthony James Cars do, is something called sale or return. They effectively sell the car for me and get the best possible price. And that's what I'm going to be doing with this car. So the next thing we're going to do is grab a coffee, and we're going to go into the lovely little lounge area here at Anthony James Cars and talk to Johnny, who's going to help me sell this car.
Good stuff.
Now then, mate, cheers.
Cheers, my friend. How are you? Right?
So this is Johnny from Anthony James Cars. Now, he's never been on the channel before, but constantly in the background whenever I'm here filming with cars. And two things, we're going to have a chat about the whole sale or return and how we're going to get the most out of my car. But then you are a bit of a 911 buff. So we're going to go on chat about my next car. That's the really exciting bit. Sale or return?
Yes.
As an option, it almost seems like a no-brainer, really.
Yeah.
Especially, I've already talked about, you know, the easiest convenient option would be just to part X the car in. Mm-hmm. And without giving too many of your dealer secrets out, when a dealer makes money in a number of ways, right?
Correct.
You're going to part X a car, which you're then going to sell on, and there's some margin in that. And then, you know, the sale or return thing's a really interesting one, though, because as a seller, it's a really good option for me.
Yeah.
Talk about what are you going to do to the car once I leave it with you today and never see it again and never drive it again?
The smallest amount of margin a dealer makes, interestingly, is from sale or return, because we haven't bought a car to stock with a bigger margin to sell.
Yeah.
But it's always a mutually beneficial process. But the main principle is that 83% of cars sold on the road today are financed. And nobody can buy your car from your drive and finance it because you're not FCA approved. But what we do is we bring cars in and we go for a prep process. So the car is all looked at by the team. We monitor the car. We then put to you what prep's needed, so if it needs tyres or wheels, all that comes off the sales process. And we give you the opportunity to go, my car isn't sales ready at the moment. It isn't in the condition I bought it in, but to get it back to sales process, this is the costs needed. We then agree that. We then look at the market, subscribe a price to it, and then we provide warranties on that car as well. So we offer a tailor-made package to get that car to market for you, and where possible, minimise the costs to you to get to the market as quick as possible for the best price.
Because I've said if I was selling it privately, yeah, I'd clean the car and make it look lovely. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's going to be, you know, a 50 grand car, yeah, and not many people are going to be able to buy that without finance. Yeah. And actually, even something like a bank loan, you can't get a bank loan for that much. So yeah, unless you're a cash purchaser, you limit the market, right? So by selling it through you, mm-hmm, whoever buys the car, you can provide them finance if Correct. They wish to do that. You can provide them a warranty, which yes, you wouldn't buy or get from a private seller. So it's the benefits for me is I make my car way more attractive for yeah, someone to buy than if I was selling it myself.
Well, interestingly, because we prep a car and we have full dealer facilities, we can sell the car for more than you can privately, mm-hmm, so that our car will have a greater ticket price. And within that price, there is things like the warranty, there is the finance packages. But of course, most people have a car they want to part exchange. You're not going to want a guy on your drive going, I love your car, but will you buy my 15-year-old, whatever it might be? Because you don't want to buy another car to have your car. No. And the other thing is you don't want somebody on your drive 9 o'clock at night when you don't know who they are. But of course, the other issue that people aren't aware of is if that car goes wrong, and let's be honest, all cars go wrong. Mm-hmm. Every car has 100% success rate of going wrong. Every car goes wrong at some point in its lifetime. You don't want somebody knocking on your door at 10 o'clock at night because the car's gone wrong.
No, not really.
No, so there's inherent risks within that. So again, for us, we can sell the car more than you can with the safety for the customer and the safety for you.
Because I think I'm not going to put specific figures because it kind of, there's a negotiation in terms of what the sale price or what the cost of a sale or return would be. But you might look at that and go, well, I'll just sell it myself. I mean, I'm not going to give you, X thousands of pounds to sell it. But the reality, like we just said, is actually you're paying for a service that you couldn't deliver yourself.
Yeah.
The peace of mind. We haven't even talked about the marketing, the handling all the inquiries, test driving, all of that kind of stuff. You just take that worry off. And because I'm not using the car every day, I think if I was using it every day and it was my only car, you kind of can only do the PX thing really, because you can't sell a car and then not be with a car for a while. But because it's not my only car, it kind of makes sense for me to try and move it on now, maximise the amount of money I can get out of the car. I've got another car I can use.
Yes.
And whatever replaces the Boxster is going to be my second car anyway. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, it maximises the margin, and we use as many channels as we can. In terms of video content, advertising, we've got an amazing confluence of customers through clubs. It instantly sees thousands of people that your car's available. And we normally return you more than you would be to get selling it privately anyway. So it's a bit of a no-brainer, really.
I think the way you described it, which is quite nice, you've got like do they still use the black book? I know there's cap prices and it used to always be the black book price, wasn't it?
So black book comes back from the days of Glasses Guide when you had a little guide and you walk around the auctions. The trouble is with Glasses, it's become a little bit down-regulated because it doesn't use live data. Cap is part of HPI and the opposition to that is Experian. And they're all using live data. There's analysis as to what cars are doing and how quickly they're selling. And then the analysis we need to look at as a trader is not just the value of your car, but how long the competition's been in stock. So if a car's been in stock for 120 days, they aren't selling very well. So you have to acclimatise your price for a car that's going to have space taken up for a long time.
Yeah.
But the book prices are mean in some ways, is probably the best way to put it, because there is an availability of cars out there. But the problem with the book is it doesn't take into consideration your car's got some wonderful specification. The trim on the back, it's wonderful, GTS interior pack. The book price doesn't acclimatise for those. So when they bang that car's details into the computer, it would just give them an automated price that doesn't truly reflect the condition, doesn't take into consideration the PPF on your car. It doesn't accurately give a value for your car specifically. Yeah. And that's where there's an issue with the market. Things like Porsches, people are aspergic with detail as to what makes a good car and what makes a bad car.
Yeah.
So the benefit of using a dealer that's aware of your car and aware of the market is it will get you the best price possible for your car rather than just punching up on the market.
Cool. Well, now there's going to be a link in this video's description, surprisingly, and in a pinned comment to the Anthony James website where you can buy my car. It's now up for sale. So it's a mega spec. As I said, it's a 2.5 4-pot GTS. It's got track pack PPF. It's got GTS interior pack. It's got a Miltech exhaust on it, but I'm also providing you with the original Porsche sports exhaust. It's got a cover. So yeah,
sounds beautiful.
It does sound good.
It sounds beautiful.
It does sound very good.
Really,
so the next question, though, is I want to pick your brains about what my next car should be.
The debate.
The debate. I want a 911, but it's not that simple. But luckily, the debate is between a 991.2 and a 992. And you've got both in the barn.
Yeah, we have, yeah.
Let's go and have a chat about 911s. Now, luckily, you have a 991.2 and a 992. So we can have a chat because I've wanted a 911 for a long time. And my price point, I am sat right between the very end of the 991 run and the very beginning of the 992 run.
Correct.
Now, for those non-911 aficionados, the whole generation of 911 thing can be a bit confusing.
There's a lot.
There's a lot, and we're not going to go into it in too much detail, but in here we've got a 930 and a 996, then we had 997, then 991, weird that we had the jump. Then 992. Then you think we'd go 993, but we've actually already had a 993. So I don't know what they're going to do after the 992. But anyway, but then each generation has a midlife uplift, and that's a .2.
Correct.
Okay. So the 991, the big thing that happened at .2 is it went turbocharged from naturally aspirated. Flat 6, 3 litre. But that kind of got rid of the whole point of turbo and Turbo S designators, because now everything's turbo apart from the GT cars. But anyway. So here's my dilemma that you can help me with. Okay.
Yes.
So in a 991.2, I could, with my budget, afford a GTS, and this is a GTS.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's got a roof. And I really want a cabriolet.
Yeah.
I've considered a Targa, but actually Tracy's not a big fan of the Targa, and
Noisy in the wind as well.
I've decided to not go down the Targa route, so it's got to be a cabriolet. And lots of people will be saying, well, you know, as a purist driver, surely you want a coupe, and I understand that argument, but I love soft-top motoring.
Yeah.
The best thing about my Boxster is you drop the roof, have the wind in your hair, I love it, and I want to do the same thing with the 911.
It's the English way. They sell more convertibles in England than they do in the rest of Europe.
And I know when there's rubbish. So the reason I like the GTS is because, as you can see with this one, it has centre-lock wheels. Now, I know that could be a bit of a pain, but they do look cool.
They do. You can get a torque converter, so it's very easy to get them off by yourself, or if you need roadside assistance.
Yeah.
It's not the problem they used to be.
Yeah, okay, so that's good, tick. And then, just like my car has a GTS interior pack, this car has the same, and I love the Alcantara in the middle of the seats, the stitching, and then the other thing about this car is it has a proper gear selector.
Yeah.
Because it's the last of when it went 992, as we'll see in that one, you've got that little tiny, I don't like the controller in that at all.
Even on the manual where the cup holder is a bit of an odd point, you can't have a cup and change.
Yeah, these have the best cup holders in the world. That has the worst cup holder in the world.
It absolutely does, yeah.
So 991.2 GTS Cabriolet, and interestingly, that's 444.
444, yeah.
444. Now, when we get to the 992, I can't stretch to a GTS in a 992, but I can stretch to an S.
Yes.
And the S has 444. So it's the same power, right? That's the other reason why a 991.1 GTS, firstly, you're then looking at a car that's probably 10 years old, which I struggle with a little bit. And also, it's not quite got the power. It's not 444, it's high 300s, I think, isn't it?
Torque levels are vastly different on the .2.
Yes, with the turbos and stuff.
Yeah, massively so, yeah.
But then, just they're dinkier, aren't they? They've got a lovely profile to them.
Yeah, and for me, it's the interior. I love the evolution of Porsche, you know, from that Bauhaus minimalist design, and the evolution tweaks are so lovely. And it's the attention to detail that makes the 991.2 my personal preference.
Yeah,
I still love it, and I love that analog interior.
Okay, so you're going to be persuading me 991.2, aren't you?
I think it's personal preference. For me, I love the proportions. I love how feline the 991 is. It's a beautiful car. 992, just as beautiful, but for me, proportionally, for our B roads, I think it's a perfect car.
Now, before we get onto the 992, can we have a chat about this? Because...
Oh, I knew you would pick up this. I said you would work out what this is. Go on.
This
For
is
the camera.
This is a 991.2.
One.
It's a 991.1.
I know why you said that, and I know where you're going with this.
Because it's GT3 Touring. And they didn't do a GT3 Touring in a 991.1.
You need to get out more, Ped. No, you are right. It is a 991.1 GT3 Touring.
Right. With 911R stripes on it, which looks quite cool. So this is a one-off then.
It is a one-off. RPM Technique, yeah. So the customer had everything from Porsche to make this into a GT3 Touring. How you work this stuff out blows my mind. You need to get out more.
Maybe Johnny had a word with me off camera, I don't know, to make me look good.
But in reality, this comes back to what we were talking about earlier with Porsche. You can have them however you want them. You know, we've got 3 Porsches, some with stripes, some without stripes, some with aero kits, some with unique backgrounds. Dan's car's got unique seats, ducktail. That's what's lovely about Porsche. You can have them how you want them.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that's well out of my price range. And also GT3, I'd love a GT3, but they've all got roofs on them. So
Yeah, and again...
I mean, I could just about afford that 996 GT3.
Yes.
That's in budget-ish.
But I think the driving that you do, when you say about doing driving tours, I still think GTS is the better car.
Yeah.
If you get into a GT3, top end are fantastic. They are wonderful track day cars. I personally prefer that grunty turbo torque for a road car.
Yeah.
For me, if I was going to do driving tours and everyday driving, it would still be GTS.
Okay. Let's talk 992.
Let's talk 992.
992.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Now, there is a school of thought that says you want to buy the newest car you can for your budget, in which case you'd be buying a 992.
Yes.
But I can only afford the very early 992s, so like a 2020 car, 2019, 2020, or the very last of the 991s, which would be 2019, 2020. Yeah. They're clearly, when you see them next to each other, we've got a 991 and a 992 next to each other. These are much bigger, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
they are bigger on the bum, bigger on the hips. There's an evolution of the shape that, you know, for a non-911 person, you'd probably look at them and not even spot the difference.
Yeah.
But you can see it when they're next to each other. It's a wider, bigger car.
It is.
My challenge is I would love a GTS, and this is a 992 GTS.
It is, yeah.
It's a coupe again. You need more cabriolets, man. And it's got the aero kit on it, especially for Joe and Pat from the podcast. I can't afford a 992 GTS cabriolet. I would love one, but they're like 100 to 105,000 pounds ideally for the spec I want, and that's £20,000 more.
Yeah.
And although interestingly, I've actually got a finance quote up to that amount, I'm just not prepared to spend that much.
Yeah, and you know, as good as the 992 is, they're still falling at a reasonable rate, whilst 991.2s aren't. So residual-wise, you know, if you're going to have a fiscal head, the 991.2 still makes a lot of sense. That retained value.
The other thing is a 991.2 GTS. There's a relatively limited set of specifications and colour palettes of those because they're a GTS. And the thing about GTS, we were talking off camera, is it's quite difficult to quantify exactly what Porsche do to the GTS to make it so good, because all the little things they're very small additions to a standard S, but they always end up being amazingly better.
Discernibly different when your bum's in the seat, remarkably so.
I don't know what. So you could do that. If I got a 992S, then first up, there's a way bigger selection of colours and so on. My challenge is the interior doesn't quite feel as special or look as special as the GTS interior. Yeah. It's got newer things, so we've talked about the cup holders already. There's a few more kind of haptics and less buttons and so on. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I think for me it's a case of keeping an eye out on the market and just having a look. Because residuals, again, coming back to my whole decision process, that becomes quite an important factor as well, because it has a big impact because I'm financing the car. Yes. It has a big impact on my finance because
there's not so many. There's not so many .2 GTSs.
Yeah, I'm finding that out because I can't find one.
A nice spec .2 GTS cab is tough. They have produced an awful lot of 992s. And again, without going off script, one of the issues that's happened with GT3s is so many in the marketplace, people who speculated haven't won because the prices have come down at a rate that was unseen before for Porsche. 991.2, not so. Still. And
I'm not buying this car to speculate or as an investment. I'm buying it to use, but I want to be able to use it and know that in 3 years' time, when my finance is up, because I am financing it. Yeah. That I'm going to be in a similar position to where I am currently in the Boxster, where I've still got money in the car. So guys, let me know in the comments, what would you choose? Would you go 991.2 or would you go 992.1?
Am I wrong with my Luddite opinion on a...
I don't know. I think we're both on the same page, mate, to be honest. Yeah. Chop the roof off that GTS and I'll have it tomorrow. But anyway, so if you are interested in my Boxster, head into the description. There'll be a link to Anthony James's website. Keep an eye out because the hunt goes on. And when we find a car, and we will find a car, I'm being patient. I'm normally not very good at being patient. We will find a car and I will finally get into my 911 dream. But yes, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. Big thanks to Johnny and Dan from Anthony James Cars. And fingers crossed, we've got to sell the Boxster first.
And we get the car.
Exactly, and then we find my 991.2 GTS cab. Hopefully. You want to have another coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's have another coffee.